outside.
EJ first, and then Coach Satterfield will be in, and a couple players.
What's up, guys? How's everybody doing?
Questions from me?
Hey, Coach, Matt Rule said on Saturday he liked what Emmett Johnson was doing in practice, but he said the room overall still needed to take some steps. How do you interpret that, and how do you see your room right now?
Yeah, I think from last year to this year where, you had a room of most of the older guys, we got room for more kind of younger guys. And Emmett's going into his really second year as a player. Dante, as powerful as he is, and big as he is, he's a freshman. You know what I mean? And Quentin's going. This is his first spring. You know what I mean? So we got some guys that are just developing right now, and but they're really happy with the progress. Emmett has really taken his second step from last spring to this spring. He's obviously shown he can do some things, and he's growing up fairly quickly. Obviously Ramir and Gabe have been limited, just kind of recovering still, and Ramir's pretty much he's pretty good, but just getting him some work, you know what I mean, and he's kind of being monitored by coach a little bit here, but he's really grown mentally. He's if you watch him this offseason in our workouts, the biggest thing I noticed about Ramir is his mental focus and his determination. That's the two things that jumped out for me with Ramir. He's determined to make a statement and with his career and for this team. You know what I mean? He's had some adversity here as a player. He knows as a staff, Coach Rule and the offensive staff, myself, we believe in him, and so I think he appreciates that, and he's really coming into his own here as a leader and as a contributor for his role and what it's going to be.
How important is it from now until August that you establish and figure out who the number one running back is to kind of have a guy you can lean on in the key situations this season?
Well, I'll tell you what, if you were to ask me that 2 years ago, I probably would have told you it's extremely important. But going through what we went through last year, you know what I mean? That was the first ever I came into the office and you lose your 1 and 2 on the same day. You know what I mean? So I would tell you from an experience of last season, I think the more depth, the better. You know what I mean? And honestly, the chips will fall where they're going to fall. I talked to Emmett last year in August, and we had a lot of one-on-one talks about where he's at and with his progression and development. And I remember just like yesterday, his first play was double-A mug against double-A mug pressure, and he steps up against Michigan and makes a great play on third down. You know what I mean? His first snap as a young player against Michigan, he came off to the side. I told you, be ready when you're ready, and he was ready. So I take that message with Emmett, with the other guys. You know what I mean? And don't worry about when the time comes or when your moment comes to be listed as the starter, but you need to be ready. You know what I mean? And the one thing I think positive about this group is we have some depth. And we have some guys that can do different things, and that's really important, as I've just learned from last season.
How have you seen, I know Gabe can't be out there, but how have you seen him contribute in other ways during the spring?
Really vocally right now during spring practice, especially with the younger guys, getting after those guys, just kind of showing them how we work and what's appropriate work as far as effort and what's not appropriate, you know what I mean? And it's really like a second voice. And Gabe kind of went through that process with me last year, getting after him and really being intense with him and knowing it's from a place of development and place of care. Now he's kind of doing that with some of those guys. And hey, listen, Coach got on me last year, so you ain't the only one. You know what I mean? And so he's been really stepping up as a leader in that room to the younger guys. And every single day, Gabe's talking about, I'll be back. So he's working his tail off to get healthy, and I'm fully confident he'll be ready to play for us.
What's the bigger challenge with Quentin and Dante as younger guys in the system? Is it the running part of it, or the pass protection?
I think it's probably a little mixture of both. I think it's really an eye development thing on each play and what you're supposed to be looking at, where your eyes start, what the progression of the eyes is in the run game and in the pass game. And that's just a repetition thing. There's nothing to that other than getting the reps and getting experience at it. You know what I mean? Emmett went through those steps. Ramir went through those steps when I was here. Gabe himself went through those steps, like as far as where your eyes are supposed to be, what's the read, and what do I do if this happens? What do I do if that happens? And again, it's a rep thing, and I think they're right on course as far as scheduling and the development.
How much is Ramir able to do compared to maybe Gabe?
I mean, Ramir's not held out for injury or anything like that. Ramir's ready to go. He's just, he's an experienced guy. He's done the things that we know he can do, what he can do. He's proven it on film. He's proven it in situations. I've known Ramir for a long time. I've known him since he's a high school kid. And, if you watch his film, you know what I mean? Like, he's a really dynamic player, you know what I mean? And he's proven that, here in this conference. He's proven that. So that's a big deal for our room. You know what I mean? And we'll watch cut-ups and we'll watch him out there from years past. And to me, there's no reason why, he shouldn't have been on the field or whatever. I don't know what the situations were, but he's proven he can be a guy. So right now, I think it's Coach Rule just monitoring, making sure he's staying healthy and treating him like a veteran. And I think it's the right thing to do. We need his leadership as well. He needs to be a leader with the other guys. So that's been great too.
Bill, if there's a game tomorrow, though.
Well, yes, absolutely.
Any of the other guys we haven't talked about popping? I think Coach Rules mentioned Mazuka at times.
Yeah, Mazuka, Ken Williams, young guys that are really showing things. And Mazuka's one of our non-scholarship players who's doing a heck of a job for us. He's asserting himself into the offense and to the staff as a guy that can run the ball for us. So as far as depth goes, I don't know where he's at right now, but I can tell you he can go into a game and we can finish a game with that kid. He runs hard and he cares and he practices and plays with some effort. So he's a talented young man. And we got some young guys like Kinchin and Isaac Dickey, Trevor Ruth, Ken Williams. Those guys are flashing. Ken Williams is a really explosive young player. So we got some young non-scholarship players and some fullbacks that are really showing some value here.
I was going to ask you, who are the main fullback options right now? And how did it hurt when Lieben he got injured last year?
It was a tough deal. Yeah. JB was playing some fullback last year, and with Barrett, you know what I mean. And Barrett showed some really good things for us. That was kind of a new thing for us as a staff, not as for us, but for Nebraska, playing with that fullback again. And Barrett came in and stepped in that role. He made some key blocks. Just off the top of my head, I remember again, him and AG out there running some outside zone stuff, and Barrett's out there lead blocking. You know what I mean? And it's a pretty picture. And he's a very smart, intelligent player, Barrett, and a tough kid. So he's doing some tight end and fullback stuff, and he's showing he's versatile. His football IQ helps. You know what I mean? Because you could put him in multiple positions, and he can help you in pass protection. He can do a lot of things. So.
How does the evolution of the offense impact the guys that you have and what their skill sets are, and how that could then, lead to their reps? I mean, if depending on who your quarterback is, maybe you don't run as much option this year. Is that possible? And then what does that do for decisions you have to make at your position?
Yeah, I always think that. And I'm not speaking for Coach Rule or Coach Satterfield or Glenn or any of those guys, but I think that for us, we're going to run NFL-style plays, NFL-style offense. When you come here, we're developing you for the NFL. We don't shy away from that. But I think the key to NFL offense, right, is, mastering your personnel, right, making sure that you're featuring your personnel. And that's really that's what spring football is all about. That's really trying to see who can do what and how these guys can affect the offense. So, I think it's really you sit back at the end of spring and look at who did what well and see how much we want to invest into training camp, into the season on those things. But I think you want to kind of give as much as you possibly can to the guys and make sure that when we do install new things in camp and for the season that they're not shocked. It's not first new to them, So you want to give as much as you possibly can and get them ready to play. So,
what are you hoping to see out of your group on Saturday?
The big thing for us is I want to see guys finish runs, and the big challenge for, guys that Emmett has shown the last couple of days, last scrimmages, Quentin Ives has shown in scrimmages, we want to make some guys miss at the second level. I think, if we can make guys miss at the second level and create some more explosive runs, we'll put some guys away. And that's, I think we ran the ball well as a group, and the big challenge for us is to take the next step, not just be good enough, but now let's take the next step in the run game and let's really dominate. That's what we're looking for on Saturday. I'm me as a coach, and that's as an offense. And that's the standard from Coach Sad and Coach Rule all the way down. Our running backs got to set the tone and run with a certain violent demeanor and create explosive plays. That's why we recruit you, and that's why that's what we're going to teach them and develop them to do.
EJ, with the injuries you had at your position last year, how hard was that year for you to also, befriend and remain positive for the guys that were out, but also get the younger guys ready to go for the next week's game?
That's a great question. Fleeks came in from receiver, and we had to get him ready. He has an explosive against Michigan. So I think you always learn as a coach. I really learned last year how important depth really was. You know what I mean? And not from a sense of just having it, but like you're talking about, now I have to find time to teach guys that are not ready to play and get them ready to play very quickly. So the key is, I think, going through that experience last year, and if I can challenge the bottom tier of my room as far as youth to play at a high level, then I think that raises the standard for the group. I know a lot of, when I was a younger coach, you'd think of your ones and twos, right? That's the most important. But I look at it now, the whole room, the young guys, if they're going to drive the room, they're going to push the room, and the other thing is they're going to be ready to play if they're needed to play, and that's the key to being a really good coach, is just developing the whole room and pushing the room, and that goes into recruiting, and that goes into spring football right now, and the focus with our spring league and getting those guys reps, because the only way to develop really is reps. And if anyone tells you something different, I'd love to see that. But development means getting the reps, getting out there, watching the film, making the corrections, and doing it again. And that's development.
All good.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks.